Micro Four Thirds has slowly gone by the wayside in recent years. There are some of us still rocking cameras with this small sensor, but it seems like everything nowadays is centered around the full frame format. So it's been a while since Micro Four Thirds shooters have had a lens release from a filmmaker focused company like Laowa. So I've tested out Laowa lenses on this channel before, and one of the funnest lenses I ever got to test out was their Nanomorph series. And the lens that I got was designed for the Micro Four Thirds mount, and it just gave my little Micro Four Thirds camera a larger than life look. In this video, I'm trying out the OOOM Cine Zoom for Micro Four Thirds. Now I'm not sure if it's supposed to be OOM or OOOM, but I think OOOM sounds a little cooler. Now, although Laowa has been a big supporter of this channel, they're not paying me in any way. They only lent me this lens and I'm gonna send it back, so all of these opinions are gonna be my own. So this definitely isn't like a lightweight run and gun lens that you're going to be mounting on a gimbal, but the diameter of the lens is actually pretty small, but it is pretty hefty for its size. In fact, it's so heavy that when mounting it on a Micro Four Thirds camera, I definitely think that it makes sense to have some type of lens support, whether that be with a 50mm rod and a lens yoke, or if you do what I did, you can use something like the DJI QR plate and then just add the lens yoke that comes with that. You'll find that on most of DJI's gimbals. And that's how I took a little bit of the stress off of the lens mount of my camera. So there are 3 different geared rings on this lens. One of them is going to be for your aperture, one for your zoom, which is internal zoom, so you're not going to see the lens telescoping at all, and then one will be for your focus. So because I was running around the coast with this lens and camera kit, I wanted to keep my setup pretty small, so I didn't add any follow focuses, and I did all of the zooming and focus pulling by hand. And that isn't ideal, but if you don't have a follow focus, it's not the hardest thing in the world to just pull focus and use the zoom ring by hand. Since this being a Cine Zoom lens, I did want to give you an idea of the range that you get with this 14 to 60. In full frame terms, it's going to be about a 28 to 120 focal range. I did shoot all this footage at t2.9 and I used a variable ND filter to control my exposure. So this being a true cinema zoom lens, you're not going to see an exposure change at all when you zoom from 14 all the way to 60. It's going to stay at a consistent t2.9 and the actual light going through the lens isn't going to change at all. And that's not necessarily the case with lenses like this. This is the Panasonic 12-40, and even though this is a constant f2.8, the exposure actually changes a bit as you're zooming in and out. It's pretty subtle, but the exposure at 12mm at f2.8 is not the same as 35mm at f2.8. So this lens is very sharp, but I wouldn't say clinically or stale looking sharp. It gives a really clean look with plenty of detail. So all the footage that you've been seeing was shot on my GH5, and I decided to shoot in 6K open gate mode just so I could use the entirety of the sensor and the lens. So here's a quick comparison of what the Laowa 14 to 60 looks like compared to a modern photo lens like the Lumix 12 to 35. Something else you'll note about cinema lenses is that focus breathing is typically pretty well controlled, and I found that to be true with this Laowa 14-60. At 14 millimeters, you couldn't see much focus breathing, and the same thing goes for 60, and I did another test getting really close at about 25 millimeters. So I'm not gonna lie, this lens is a pretty hard sell for most Micro Four Thirds shooters. If you're in the YouTube or content creation world where portability and speed are the name of the game, I don't think that this Laowa zoom would be the best fit for you. But if you're on a career path where you're using cameras like the Pocket 4K, the BGH1 or the Zcam M4, and you're wanting to pair one of those cinema cameras with a cine zoom lens, that's where I think that this Laowa cine zoom lens is going to make the most sense. Using this lens on a commercial, a documentary, or a narrative piece, I think would be a really good fit because, again, it gives you a lot of range and you don't have to adjust your lighting or your exposure when you change zoom ranges. Because this is a T2.9, that means that the light coming through the lens is going to be a consistent T2.9 all throughout the zoom range, which is pretty sweet. So big shout out to Laowa for letting me borrow this lens. It was super fun, and there's part of me that really doesn't want to give it back. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it to this portion of the video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more content from me. I'll have a playlist right here that you can click on if you'd like to see more of my videos.